Hey guys, it's Paul with another VHS review. I know it's been a couple of months, but here I am. And it's going to be Naked Massacre. Now, you guys know I love those provocative titles. Look at that. America loves sex and violence. And here you have sex and violence in one title. Naked Massacre. It sounds awesome. So, as you can imagine, the sleaziness of this title made this video popular to rent. The movie itself was made by a French filmmaker, Denis, Héroux, who now lives in Canada making French films, but it was shot in France and Germany, and the original title was Born for Hell, and it was based on the murders of, well, it was loosely based on the murders of Richard Speck, a serial killer who killed a bunch of nurses. But with a title like Born for Hell, it's thought-provoking, right? It's almost philosophical, it makes you think about it, but in the movie it actually means very little. It's just a tattoo the guy has on his arm. I like both titles for different reasons. I like Born for Hell because, as I'll tell you guys, it's a pretty decent movie. It's not too bad. It's shot well. It's edited well. You can tell that it was made by a bunch of competent filmmakers. It felt like some thought was put into making the movie, because you get a lot of these sleazy movies and it feels like you get a group of filmmakers or production company that just wants to slap something together just to get it out there. So in that respect, I like the title Born for Hell because it's a more serious title for a more serious subject matter, especially for a film of which a lot of effort was put into making, like this. So, but on the other hand, I like Naked Massacre because I love those really sleazy, provocative titles. It just sounds awesome. I guess you assume with a title like that, you're going to get a bunch of sex and nudity and a lot of gore. You're going to get a massacre. You're going to get a lot of people dropping down like flies. So that's really cool. And here we have the original Vidcrest VHS release. So this one came out in 1984, and I'm assuming it was Vidcrest that first came up with the retitle Naked Massacre, which was a good marketing idea, because I'm sure at that time a title like this would rent more than Born for Hell, because Born for Hell doesn't really tell you people are going to die. It doesn't really suggest that there's sex in the movie, and those are the things that sell. So they chose Naked Massacre, and it was a perfect title. Several years later, 3 years later, Questar Productions re-released it. Artwork is a lot cooler. Look at that. Got this painting here of a steak knife through a nurse's cap with blood all over the place, and the logo is even in blood. That's really awesome. I love that. The movie is about a U.S. soldier who is discharged from the Vietnam War, and somehow he gets into Belfast. He's just lingering around there trying to get home. He's kind of stuck there, just wandering around. He stays at a homeless shelter, I believe, and that's where he meets a Vietnamese homeless guy there, and they kind of start talking. But pretty much in the beginning of the movie, he's just wandering around. He has nothing to do. He has no money. He's just trying to find a way to get home. He hangs out at a bar playing a pinball machine with naked chicks on it. He starts stiffing the bar people because he's not paying his tab. So at this point, you really don't feel that the character, our main protagonist, is a bad guy. He just wants to get home. He was in the war, and somehow he's discharged. We don't know anything about why he was discharged yet. But he just seems like a decent guy trying to get home, and we have no reason to believe he's a bad guy. One day while he's at the bar, he sees a van load of nurses come out and going to a boarding house kind of thing. We assume those are the nurses that are going to die. I personally did not imagine that he was going to be the killer necessarily, because he just didn't come off as a killer, like a serial killer, like a sadistic person. Out of desperation, he finally goes to that boarding house where all the nurses live, and when he goes to the back door, one of the nurses finds him. It happens to be a nurse that looks just like his wife. He goes there begging for food mostly, but after he does get his food, he takes out his wallet and shows that nurse a photograph of his wife, saying, "Oh, you look a lot like her. You look beautiful like her." And she's like, "Oh, I don't see any resemblance." She's kind of like a little freaked out, but she's trying to be nice and trying to be cool with the guy just to help him out and get him out of the back door, get him back outside. So she gives him food, a little creeped out from the situation. He finally leaves, and that's it. So the next night, he leaves the homeless shelter while everyone's asleep, and he goes to where the nurses live. When he breaks in, he gathers up all the nurses, all tied up, telling them, "Listen, I just want your money, I just want to get home, and then I'll be out of here, no one will get hurt." Remember the nurse I told you about that looks like his wife? He takes her to another room, saying he has to talk to her privately. Now at first you imagine, okay, he's gonna rape her. It's kind of obvious, right? He sits her down in front of a fireplace and he starts talking to her about his wife, how his wife had betrayed him, and that he tried to stab himself when he found out she had left him for another guy, whatever. Starts struggling with women to rape her. He pushes her down, but the rape never really happens. We really don't see what happens, but we do know she dies. Probably out of anger because she looks so much like his wife, so I guess he was trying to vent some of that anger out that he had for his wife on this nurse. He goes back to the room. This time he takes 2 women to another room, and he has them strip their clothes and has them start going down on each other. You're like, wow, this is getting interesting, right? It's getting to be a little sleazy movie. One chick already died, and now this one chick is going down on the other. And then he has the chick going down on the other chick, stab her in the chest, and then he somehow kills the other one. So now you got 3 nurses dead. So he goes back to the room, and there's actually this one nurse that keeps doing these prayers over and over and over again, and it just gets really annoying. So you're kind of happy when he finally stabs her or kills her. He ends up killing all the rest of the girls, except for one. And right when he gets to the last girl left, besides the one hiding under the bed, of course, there she is in the room, and she just starts to laugh. And he's like, what's wrong with this girl? And he starts laughing too. And I guess that's when he realized, you know what, I like this girl. She thinks me killing these other girls is funny. This is kind of cool. So the girl laughing, and he takes her downstairs. I guess to give her like a drink or to give her a sandwich. I don't remember. But as she walks past the dead body, she looks at them and says, oh, they're sleeping, or something like that, something really ridiculous. So you know this girl's either in shock, ridiculous, or just as crazy as this guy. So he sits her down at the table, gives her a glass of water or a glass of something, and tells her to drink. And she's smiling, all giddy, and she takes a sip. He lays his knife down on the table. She sees the knife and grabs it, but he doesn't do anything yet. She looks at the knife, plays with it, and he lets her do that. And she takes the knife and plunges it into her own chest. So she was kind of nuts, and I guess she didn't want to be defiled by this guy. I don't know what she was thinking with laughing and stuff. Maybe she was just trying to trick him so she could get an opportunity to kill herself before she could be defiled. From that point, he leaves. He has their money. He ransacks the house and takes their money. After that, it gets all over the news, right? Because one girl was alive, still under the bed, and it gets all out into the news. A description of the guy, a description of the tattoo. So we see a scene of him in the bathroom, and I think he's looking in the mirror, and he has a knife in his hand. And at first, I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna carve the tattoo off of him so that there's no proof that it was him, so there's no direct evidence. But what he does is he slices his own wrists, tries to kill himself. Next shot, we're in the hospital. He's lying on a stretcher. The guy lying on the stretcher says, listen, $5,000. That's a lot of money to a man who wants to die. Now, I'm not sure if that was trying to bribe him because the doctor saw the tattoo on his arm and knew he was the killer. I'm not sure what that $5,000 was meant to do. Maybe $5,000 for the doctor to kill him, to finish him off. I'm not really sure, and maybe that's just an open-ended question for the movie. A unique thing about this movie is that it ends with black and white photos of the victims. No sound, just they show on the screen and go to the next photo, and it's really awesome. And there's no credits. Just right after the last photo, the movie ends. So there's no credits at the end of this movie, at least not the print that I watched. So that's the movie. I really liked the movie. It was, it's not gruesome, it's not gory, there's some blood in the movie, but it was edited well, shot well, and I would be able to watch it again. It gets boring at times, but I like the story, and I like how our protagonist is also the anti-hero, kind of like films like Maniac and Silent Night, Deadly Night, where the main character of the movie is the killer, and I really like that aspect of this movie. Now, the movie is on DVD, but they're budget releases, they're unlicensed releases, so as you can imagine, the quality is going to be really poor, because number one, there's a 99% chance that it's probably a VHS transfer. One of the releases are one of those 50 packs where you get 50 movies for like $20. So right off the bat, you know it's going to be horrendous quality, because not only is it going to be transferred from a VHS copy, but it's going to be compressed because they fit several movies on the same disc, so you know the picture's no good. And there's also a individual release for this movie with this artwork by a company, Synergy, I think. And the artwork looks cool, but they put this really stupid border around it. I don't know why. As if their name is so great, like they're releasing a good quality DVD release, but it's just junk, so don't even waste your time buying it. And I would never buy a budget release DVD, I only buy the good stuff, and until I get something official, I watch these. So, like I said, watch the movie. It has a provocative title, and I like both titles for different reasons. So, Naked Massacre, check it out. It's a cool movie. It's not as violent and sexy as the title proclaims, but it's definitely worth a watch. So this is Paul, and look forward to my future reviews. I'm off from school, so hopefully I have some more time to do a bunch more. So that's it. Until next time, this has been Paul.
An elephant comes to a river. He wants to drink. He puts his trunk in. A crocodile comes up and bites his trunk. The elephant says,
I suppose you think that's funny.
You don't laugh at jokes?